From our studios around the world, this is the Taste of Place podcast. Each month, we share stories from the keepers of culinary culture and heritage to spark ideas for your professional path or your next travel adventure. I'm your host, Eric Wolf. Thanks for listening. Today on the Taste of Place podcast, we are joined by chef, food tourism entrepreneur, and storyteller Karl Wilder, founder of the Chef Tours. Broadcasting from Mexico City, Karl shares why he spent 6 months immersing himself in the city's neighborhoods, markets, and kitchens instead of building another superficial top 10 bites food tour. We explore what is wrong with many food tours today, why culinary heritage and history should never be separated, and why some of the world's most meaningful food experiences still come from grandmothers, local markets, and conversations with strangers. Along the way, we talk about Oaxaca versus San Sebastián, Mexican wine, Georgian dumplings, American-Italian cuisine, food waste, handmade cooking, and even Karl's unexpected past dubbing films in Italy. And yes, Milou the traveling Boston Terrier makes an appearance too. Let's get started.
Karl, welcome to the show today.
Thank you.
Got to ask you, what has made you decide to declare Mexico City your home?
I declared Mexico City as my home only for a 6-month period because I wanted to not do what I used to do when I worked for other tour companies, which was get into town and you've got anywhere from a week to 10 days to design a tour. Mexico City doesn't work in the same way as many other cities. I would say that 90% of the best food has never seen a website, doesn't have a Google Maps address. You just have to become a part of it, immerse yourself in it. You have to talk to all the other chefs. When you find a great bite, find out what they suggest, taste, move, run around. It's not an easy city to unravel. And I didn't want a superficial, here's a taco with pork, here's a gordito, here's a this, and here's a that food tour. I wanted to really know and understand, and also study Spanish at the same time. My Spanish is not perfect by any means, but I have found whether I'm in Spain or Mexico or Argentina, people are really helpful. If they understand me, they acknowledge that they understand me, and then they maybe correct something, and they get into the whole explanation.
Yeah.
I have found that all 3 cities have been my teacher.
That's great. Have you gotten to the situation where people just look at you and they say, K?
No, I've never had anyone say K. I have people call me K because they can't say my name properly. They call me K or Carlo or Carlito. In Ciudad de Mexico, Carlito was the most common because you can't tell this on a screen on a computer, but I'm a pretty tiny person. I mean, I'm smaller than Stanley Tucci and George Stephanopoulos. So I am an Ito in Mexico, which means a derivative or a small version of.
Okay, Carlito. All right, well, maybe we'll start calling you Carlito then.
Fine.
So what's wrong with food tours today? I know that you have a lot of opinions on that, and I do too, but I would love to hear from someone who's on the ground like you. What is wrong and what needs to change?
All right. There is some value in some of the food tours that are out there. There definitely is. But there are things that could be done better. I worked for the 3 largest food tour companies in the world before launching my own company. And they're always in a rush to launch a new city. And you tend to do a lot of internet research and a lot of Wikipedia and a lot of things that aren't necessarily true and correct. And if you spent a little more time and really dove into the cuisine, the culture, the language, and the people, you would find that Wikipedia is the worst source of information in the world, especially when it comes to food, and that you can do better. But they're rushed. They just want, add the new city, make more money. Add the new city, make more money. And a lot of food tour customers are not terribly discriminating. Now, that's not to say that a tasting tour can't work for someone. For instance, if it's your first time in Paris and you've never had a macaron and you've never had a baguette and you've never had a croissant, and you have 2 hours before your Eiffel Tower experience, then take a typical food tour. There may be value in that for you, and that's okay. I'm not judging you for that. This is your first time. But if you are a person who really appreciates food, and if you've traveled more, then what we're capable of giving you is a much deeper and more intensive experience because we really take our time to develop everything. We also spend a huge chunk of the ticket price on food and wine rather than the 10%, which is standard.
Yeah. I've noticed that there seem to be two kinds of food tours. One, which is like you do it, and which I think is the right way, where you get into the culinary heritage and culture. You put the people first, the local residents first, and the local customs and traditions and ingredients and so on. And all of that comes first. And then the eating and drinking is just something that you enjoy because of everything else you're doing. But the other kind of food tour is the kind that is a bunch of people that get together just to have fun, usually to drink a lot. You've seen these beer peddling tour type things, and the tour guide is almost like a babysitter for 2 or 3 hours, And that's just, I wouldn't call it a food tour. That's more like a social activity.
Yeah, the drinking tours are, although I think we actually came up with a tour that does involve some alcohol in Mexico, but is a real deep dive into the food and the culture. Chef Jorge, who just took over the tours for me, is a culinary instructor in Ciudad de Mexico. And he's a really, really incredible guide, wonderful stories, etc. But he learned to be the equivalent of a sommelier for mezcal and tequila. So we do a tour in the evenings near the Hippodrome Hotel. So it's the Condesa area, which is very nice, where we don't focus on alcohol, but we certainly include a decent amount. They get a beer, they get a tequila shot, they get a taste of Mexican wine, they get a mezcal. But they're learning about those things and the importance to the culture and the history of them and how they came about and why we started doing it this way. So it's not in isolation. It's not a drinking tour. They also have incredible food. We found an incredible taqueria in the back of a pet food store. Don't ask me how it got there. But it's Mexico. If you have a retail space, you don't waste an inch. So when the animal stuff was selling this much, then we use this much of the space and we throw a taqueria in. But it's so good. And then we have other food stops, including at the culinary school, where they get one of the best guacamoles I've ever had in my life, along with some Mexican wine, which is shockingly good. I didn't realize how ancient the wine tradition was in Mexico. It predates California. Well, It is Baja California. It was all part of one state. I didn't know that when they conquered California and threw many of the Mexicans out, some have come back, that most of those vineyards were already planted.
Yeah.
It wasn't a new industry. So I found some great Mexican wines that I'm really happy about. So it's sort of a mix. You do some drinking. You may get a little toasty, but not drunk off your ass like the pub tours. You'll feel a little warm in the face maybe. But you get a full understanding how all of those things fit into the culture along with the food that you're eating. And so I think it's a really nice experience. We had to raise the price recently because the prices of the tequila and the mezcal have gone this high.
Yeah. Is that because of transportation costs or something else?
No, because they're all made within about 10 miles of Mexico City. And Mexico has their own gas source. They refine their own gasoline. They have their own oil wells. Gasoline right now in Mexico is about 80 cents a gallon with
That's
taxes.
super cheap.
So it's a very different economics of scale. They're made from cactus, and the cactus has become a more popular vegetable. So there's a competition between the eaters and the drinkers for the cactus. I think more is being planted for sure because the price increases make fewer people drink it. So of course they're trying to increase the supply, but that's about a year away.
Yeah. I had heard that Mexico has really good wines too. And I'm familiar with the Copper Canyon region, but I've not been there. And I've always wanted to try Mexican wines, and I've not really had the opportunity to yet. But I'm glad to hear that you say that they're very good, because that gives me another compelling reason to visit Mexico for the food and beverage.
If you can, land in Oaxaca, because the food and beverage there, and they have much more wine available in Oaxaca because it's closer to the wine country. It will blow you away. That's another city we want to open eventually, is Oaxaca, because it's extraordinary. I've never had such good food in my life, I think, as in Oaxaca,
Really?
Mexico.
Better than San Sebastián, Spain?
Completely different. I hate to use the word better. San Sebastián is one of my eating capitals on earth. The food is completely different in Oaxaca because San Sebastián they're so inventive with the Nuevo Tapa in San Sebastián. You go into a bar and you get an unexpected taste. The chef had an idea. Here it is. It's on a piece of bread. It's on this, it's on that. So that's a very exciting dining destination as far as I'm concerned. But in Oaxaca, it's equally exciting with different tastes. A lot more spice, a lot more pepper, a lot more chipotle, the smoked pepper. So I would say they're equal, but completely different.
Interesting. Well, for me, San Sebastian is like a Disneyland for foodies. I absolutely love it.
No, I do.
And I think it's a great metric as well by which to gauge someone's appetite or how they are with food. If they also like San Sebastian, then we'll probably have similar tastes or experiences that we like. And if you're telling me that you love San Sebastian and also you love Oaxaca, then I'm thinking I'll probably love Oaxaca as well.
You probably will. And it's constantly surprising. It's constantly surprising. So you think mole. Okay, the mole is incredible, but did you know there's 15 different kinds of mole?
I knew there were some different ones. I didn't know 15, but yeah.
15. Oaxaca has 15 registered mole. I don't like the green so much. Mole verde is not my favorite. I prefer the mole rojo and the mole negro.
Okay, nice. Oaxaca with some Mexican wine, some mezcal, tequila. That's the next trip, I think.
If you make it, just send me a note. I will advise you in every possible way I can. I have a whole diary from my week there. I went specifically to study with a person who makes mole, and not a culinary instructor at any point, but the grandmother of one of my friends. And did I ever learn? And with a mortar and a pestle, I can grind out a mole in about an hour. It's labor intensive. That will make you weep with joy. And it only contains 2 grams of sugar per serving.
Wow, that sounds wonderful. And the best kind of instructor as well.
Yeah. That has been my life. I have learned more from grandmothers than I ever have from working in restaurants. And that's the truth.
We obviously do work in Spain and are always talking to people about the gastronomy in Spain. And we recently interviewed a Spanish woman who lives in Ireland, and we were talking about how all of the faces of Spanish cuisine are men. Occasionally you might see a woman, but it's very male dominated. And I was saying that just doesn't make sense, because if you think about the mothers and the grandmothers, they're the keepers of recipes and ingredients and traditions. And they're the ones that make sure the table is full and that everybody's plates are full and all of that. And by putting only the men forward, it seems like you're not paying enough respect to the women in the industry.
I not only agree with that, but I would add that the women are more creative. Because when you're in a restaurant, you have access to ordering systems and you can shop for ingredients. When you're feeding a family, maybe this is too expensive and that is too expensive and you buy this instead. And then you go home, make it into something truly delicious. I mean, I think we touched on this when we talked before, but it was the Italian grandmothers that came over from Sicily and had an idea of what the rich Northern Italians were eating. And they created an entirely new cuisine based upon fantasy. Because the Italian-American cuisine is highly original, completely different. But if the Northern Italians can make a sauce bolognese, I will put meatballs in my sauce.
Yeah.
It was almost a competition to who could add the most. And then they created, I love American Italian food. I really do. The American Italian lasagna with layers of cheese that makes you bloat for days.
Chicken parmesan.
These things are delicious. They're not Italian,
No.
but they're really delicious. And they were inventive grandmothers. No chef set out to create an American Italian cuisine. That was mothers and grandmothers. This is what's available. This is what we make for our family. And they're the most creative people on earth as a result of that. So they're on the forefront. They're on the cutting edge, in my opinion. That's why I always seek them out.
I agree with you 100%. I don't know. I think that Italian American is certainly its own type of cuisine. And when Italians say to me, "Oh, you Americans don't know anything about Italian food," I don't compare it. Well, if you want a proper Italian pizza or proper Italian pasta, the little tiny portion, but it's delicious, like cacio e pepe or something like that. But it's a tomato sauce that has a little bit of an anise flavor in it.
Yes.
And I really enjoy that flavor. And I've not found that in Italy. To me, that's an American Italian flavor.
It is an American Italian flavor. And to the best of my knowledge, the first ones to do that were Umberto's Clam House in New York. Yeah, well, Umberto's Clam House is famous for the gangster in the corner being shot to death during his dinner. But they were using the sausage and the meatballs, which were served separately. And one of the chefs noticed how good it made the sauce and started throwing it in, grinding it up a little in a mortar and pestle and throwing it in their red sauce. And people are like that. What is that flavor? And they don't always recognize it, but it always tastes great.
Now, is that anise or is it fennel or is it both?
It's actually toasted fennel seeds.
Toasted fennel. Okay. 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 All right. I'm not a chef, so I'm not going to know these things. But I have a question for you because the way you were
Sure.
talking about Oaxaca and San Sebastian, have you ever been to Penang? Because I've heard people talking in a similar way about Penang, Malaysia.
I have been Penang, Malaysia. I did a whole 4 months in Asia the year before the lockdowns. And I was in China, I was in Malaysia, I was in Vietnam. Yes, Penang. I found the food there to be very, very good, very, very high quality. Even a little streetcar pork belly, and greens meal was delicious. I didn't find it to be distinctively different from much of the other Asian food I was having in the other countries. It was always good, but I didn't find that it was distinctively different.
Well, I mean, Malaysian food, Thai food, very similar, but also parts of Malaysian and Indonesian are similar too, and the languages are similar as well. Almost the same language.
The best thing I remember having there is going to be a little bit surprising because it was just a vegetable. It is called water spinach, which is common in Asia, but not common in the rest of the world. And in Malaysia, they take the water spinach and they saute garlic in the fat. And you get this incredible water spinach. And it was better than in Vietnam or in China or anywhere else I had it. And I asked about it specifically. They're using pork fat.
So it's kind of like if you want me to eat Brussels sprouts, you've got to grill them in bacon fat and lemon zest.
It is a little bit like that. Yeah, garlic and pork fat. So they had this unique, savory umami flavor that drove me mad. And I remember standing on the corner, probably eating 2 plates of it before I got my translator out and figured out how to ask about the fat. And they were happy to tell me and then show me what they do.
So if you could get on a plane and go to any country for the food right now, which one would it be? Either one you've been to before or a brand new one?
Tbilisi, Georgia.
Okay.
I've been craving those dumplings, Kinkal. Do you know those?
No, I'm not familiar with those.
They're very much like a soup dumpling in Asian culture, but they are a big dumpling that has a twisted top. It looks like a Hershey's Kiss, but in large size. You usually get anywhere from 2 to 5 or 6 in an order if they're being shared. And they are filled with juicy meat and onion and seasonings and herbs. And the whole thing just comes together in the most delicious symphony in your mouth.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. I would love to try a khachapuri. I've never had one. And when I was living in Portland in the States, there was a Georgian food cart there. And I remember I was with a friend one night. We were waiting for it. Is this whole cloak and dagger thing about are they going to open or are they not going to open? And they're moving around and they're at this location this Saturday night. Anyway, we get there and there's a line and we were told that it'll be about 2 hours. And after about an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes, I just gave up. I said, I don't have time for this. As much as I'd like to try a khachapuri, so I still have to get to Georgia and try one.
Well, there's many variations on the khachapuri. Are you talking about the one with the white cheese, the butter, and the egg?
Yeah, that's the classic one, right?
That is the classic, and that is, in my opinion, the best. You have to always, there's insider's tip, if you go to Georgia or to a Georgian restaurant, ask if the chef is happy, because they believe that only a happy chef can produce a good khachapuri. If the chef comes in a bad mood, the khachapuri will make you sick. So if you ask if the chef is in a good mood, the server will pass that on, and that makes the chef happy just to be acknowledged, and then you get a better meal.
That's a wonderful tradition. And it makes me think as well about on a metaphysical level, like if the chef is putting love energy into the food, that the food's going to turn out better. Does that make
Absolutely.
sense?
Yes, and that's why grandmothers to me are such a great source of food wisdom, because I have never met a grandmother or even my own mother and grandmother that would cook and put like that. There was always this feeling of I'm taking care of my people. I'm loving my people. I'm giving something to my people. And I still remember the first time I was feeling poorly We were in Omaha, Nebraska, and my grandmother made chicken soup for me. I still make chicken soup in the same way today. Many, many years later, I was a little boy and I stood by her side the whole time and made something called thumbprint noodles, which were essentially autocate, just egg and flour and a little salt. And the soup was incredible. And I still do that. The leeks, everything she put into it, I put into it today. If I don't feel well, I make a big pot of chicken soup.
With the real chicken stock. You
Oh,
boil
yeah.
down the bones. Yeah, you got to do it that way.
Oh, no, none of this cube. Things you do not find in my house are cubes. I make my own broths. I make my own reductions. You never see that kind of thing in my house. Or our microwave. It's verboten.
What else don't we see in your house, in your kitchen?
Most foods that come in bottles, boxes, jars, and cans. Pasta and rice would be the exception. But for instance, when it's time for bread, I get out the yeast, the flour. I use my hands. I make pasta, but I always keep dried on hand just in case of emergency. I get home from a trip. There's got to be some dried pasta and pesto in the freezer. My mother, I love her dearly. She died this past December, but she would open up a can of cream of mushroom soup and glop it on literally everything. And so now I have an aversion to things that come in cans. I don't think anything in my house is in a can.
Maybe it was a Nebraska thing.
But her mother cooked. Her mother would never have touched canned soup. I think it was sort of a generation skipping thing because her mother cooked so brilliantly. My mother never picked up a spoon, a fork, or a knife in the kitchen. Her mom did everything. Then when she moved on her own, she ate a lot of scrambled eggs. When she got married, she was much older. She'd never really learned to cook, but suddenly she was having kids. And so she just did the best she could do with the knowledge that she had at the time, which was open a can of cream of mushroom soup, throw the meat and the potatoes in the crock pot, and let it go for 6 hours, whatever, that's dinner. So she did her best. I don't blame her for that. But it was my grandmother who began to teach me. And then when I did the internship in Italy for 3 years, the Italian chefs taught me enormous amounts. And they were the opposite of the stereotypical screaming American chef or Gordon Ramsay type.
There is a lot of stress and pressure, I think, in kitchens in big cities to perform people I don't think know how hard people work in a kitchen. I mean, the kitchen opens at, 9 in the morning and people are chopping vegetables all day. And just for, an evening dinner performance, I mean, there's a lot of background work that goes into it that I don't think people appreciate.
I know that they don't because I do the tours in Berlin myself and I cook a 5-course meal for guests. I cure every piece of ham or bacon. All of the charcuterie is made in house. All of the bread is made in house. Everything is made by hand. And they don't either know that or appreciate that. I try to give them a sense of what goes into building a meal, but most Americans just don't get it because they don't do it.
Yeah. Would you say that's an American thing, or do people from other cultures exhibit the same behavior?
Depends on the culture. It's mostly an American thing.
Okay.
Mostly American. When I had 2 Germans on my tour bringing their American friends said nothing about the labor involved, but the Germans were, my God, you must have spent hours today to make such a delicious meal. Thank you so much. The American said, it doesn't take hours to make pasta. I said, well, actually, the pasta was handmade. I went to the farm stand. I got fresh eggs. I did this. All for pasta. They don't have dried pasta here. So they didn't appreciate it in the same way.
Yeah.
And so I found an ad for, can you write creative, minute long, but don't include any dirty words? We need you. And I went to this place on Hayes Street called Carey Productions. And it was 1-minute phone sex recordings for 976 numbers. I don't know if you remember those, but they were a thing at one point.
Yeah.
Hello, mister. Oh my God, I'm so happy to hear from you. So I started writing the scripts and doing the voices and women's voices, men's voices, etc. Then a gentleman in the film industry noticed that my talent, he was apparently listening to some of these. He contacted Carey Productions and asked who I was. And Janice sent me to his home where I did an audition dubbing some film stuff, just making up the script as I went along, but matching the mouth movements. I seem to have an uncanny ability to get it right while making things up. And he loved it. I'm not saying he worked for the mob, but when I went to Italy and I said I have to stop dubbing movies, and I don't know how long, he said, "Don't worry, kid. I got people all over Italy. I know you're in Venice. You're going to Verona next week. So when you go to Verona, I'll send somebody. He'll find you, give you what you need. Keep working. Not a problem." And so all over Italy, while I was cooking, either at the day or the night or whatever my job was, as I was passed from restaurant to restaurant, I would recruit like some opera singers in one case, the cast of Hair in another, and we would go into the recording studio and dub porn films. It wasn't exclusively porn, but it was mostly porn stuff done in France, Germany. I was the voice of Tari Ben in France, and I got other people to do other voices. I did 7,000 movies altogether.
Wow.
Yeah. And many of them were porn, but there were some vampire films. And then I also acted in 3 really bad sex comedies filmed in Florida, filmed back to back, where I only knew who I was, based on whether I was wearing glasses or not.
Okay. Well, did not know that about you, Karl. I have met porn stars before, but yeah, I don't think we've ever interviewed one on a podcast before. But
you weren't really did porn. I only voiced porn. I never actually was on screen.
There you go. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Goodness. Now we can continue.
It's public knowledge. As a matter of fact, I'm shopping a book about it now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
A Filthy Blonde. And it's about my years living in Italy, cooking and dubbing films.
Italy is known for having the best voiceovers in the world. And I didn't realize this, that I was talking to a friend in Italy who was saying that whoever they get to be the actors that step in for people, that they do it with such care that the voice actually looks like the person. And I've wondered this a few times. You see a film on Netflix, so there have been a couple movies that we've seen, whether it's a Danish show or a Norwegian show or something, and the voice just doesn't quite match the person. You see like this big beefy guy and he sounds like a girl, or you see this girl who's really petite and pretty and she sounds like she's on drugs or something. It's not the right voice, but I guess Italy it's a thing, and you get the original actors to come to Italy to meet their voiceovers, because I guess this is a huge thing.
I do know about this, and I love the way the Italians cast. I also love the Italian recording studios because they are so much nicer than many of the others that I've worked at. They really take voiceovers seriously. I listened to the dubbed version on one episode and it was like, you've got to be kidding.
Yeah,
the guy was still talking with the mouth stopped moving. It was just so badly done that I listened to it in Spanish and used the subtitles and tried to pay attention to the Spanish as much as possible. Yeah, it can be really, really bad. You have to, it's a talent. It is. And I don't know that it's a craft. I don't know that it can be taught. I think it's just, you have to kind of get it. But if you want to talk about the non-porn things, I also helped restore a number of classic films that had a few minutes of missing sound.
So whose voice do you sound most like?
I'm not allowed to say because all of those required me to sign lengthy non-disclosures.
Okay.
But I did a lot of women's voices where a few minutes of the singing was gone. And that was back when I was 19, 20, 21, and I could be a soprano. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, you do have a kind of a deep voice. Okay.
Oh boy, my voice has hit B. Arthur territory. I am in the key of Cher now.
Have you ever noticed in Spain, like whatever they say in other languages or cultures, when it comes to Spain, you have to drop your octaves about 4 octaves down. Both men and women, they both have super low voices in any kind of movie, commercial, anything.
Yeah. Spanish actors do. Spanish newscasters as well.
It's like, really? Wait, do you talk like that normally, or?
Many of them do not talk like that normally, but it's a thing within the culture, especially with the broadcasters. They're all, and you can sometimes hear it almost cracking and screeching as they try to keep the pitch down here.
Yeah, yeah, that's very.
Maybe it's part of the macho culture. I'm not completely sure where it comes from.
Maybe it's related somehow.
It could be. I mean, it's a very macho culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Speaking.
speaking of stars, is Milou available? We would love to see the face of
Yes.
your tour
Oh,
company.
my mascot. Okay. Milou. Oh.
He's
Does
not in
not.
focus. There he
Is that a?
is.
Oh, he is so jet lagged. I escaped it this time. He did not.
With that.
Yeah. It'll be 2 or 3 days for him.
Bless. Tell us what kind of breed he is and how he came to be involved in your business.
Oh man, this is a fun story. I was on a train from Germany to Paris 2 years ago now, just about 2 years exactly. And my girlfriend called me, Jasmine, and she said, "You have to walk a dog." And I said, "Okay, I can walk a dog." She was going to foster this guy after his human mommy had died. I just kind of took him under my wing and started taking him with me everywhere I went because he liked it. He's very social. He liked going places, sniffing things, doing things. At the end of 3 weeks, you couldn't tear us apart. But he was a service dog. And service dogs, to transfer a service dog from France to Germany is a big deal. And all kinds of people had to get involved, the trainer, my doctor, et cetera, and he had to be retrained just for me. He was a diabetes detecting dog, and now he can detect if I'm going to get an attack of pancreatitis 4 to 6 hours before it comes. I take a medication that stops the most negative of the symptoms, and since I've had him in these 2 years, I have not been hospitalized one time.
Wow.
And I
That's
used to
impressive.
be hospitalized 2 to 3 times a year with pancreatitis.
Wow.
It would be so painful. I'd get in the ambulance like I can't even walk. Not at all. The one time I ignored his instructions, he woke me up at 4 a.m. in San Francisco. He went and got the medication and dropped it on my chest.
No.
Oh yeah, he's trained to do that. And if I continue to not respond, he has a horn that he can honk that shows I'm being non-responsive, and that will bring help. So he just does that with his mouth and someone will come. Yeah. He's incredible. And the great thing is he can travel with me everywhere because he is a service dog. He fits on my lap perfectly when we fly. So when we fly, he can't have food or water. So I just fast as well because it's not fair to eat food over his head, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm speechless. I had no idea. And what an amazing little companion you've got.
Yeah, he's really amazing. And he's also amazing when it comes to putting together a food tour. For instance, in Seville, which is one of my favorite cities, we did a Nuevo Tapa tour, which is, new young chefs, many of whom are female, I should point out. And they're doing tapas differently. They're reinventing the genre. But in Seville, it had been, these are the tapa, and every restaurant has the same menu. These new chefs have come in the past couple of years, and they're changing everything up, and I love that. And I think 3 of the chefs are female on that tour, which is also very unusual for Spain. But everywhere we went, Milou was the conversation starter. You go in, "Oh, mi paro, oh, hola, hola, hola." And that works just about everywhere. He breaks the ice. He reminds us, look around, smell the roses, be a part of the world you're in, don't be separate from it. And he slows me down because he's got to sniff everything. And that allows conversation and relationships to form. So he has been not only our mascot, but a real asset to building these stops. And everybody welcomed him with open arms, and then they welcomed me.
It's amazing how the dogs are icebreakers everywhere you go. It's true.
Yeah. It really, really helps. And in Germany, he does all the tours with me. He's right there waiting at the stop. Most of the guests recognize him. They go, "Is that Milou? Oh, then you must be Karl." And that's absolutely fine. I write a series of detective novels that are published by a small press. And people often bring books to autograph. When I put a dog into book 3, It outsold the other books 10 to 1.
Wow.
I wrote Milou in it, just called him Shadow.
So does Milou have a favorite food?
Milou, I prepare food for Milou. He had a lot of digestive issues when he came to me. And so I worked with a vet in San Francisco, Pablo, a friend of mine. And we came up with something we call Milou mix, which is ground meat of any kind, mixed with sweet potato, bone meal, and egg. And Milou mix, he's perfect on Milou mix, and he dropped a full kilo of weight as well. No croquettes, none of those dried things. His favorite Milou mix was in Argentina when I got beat. Oh my God, I've never seen a dog eat with more joy than that.
Yeah. Or bacon. If you make something and put bacon in it, oh my God, it's the happiest day of their life.
He's never had bacon because he's got a sodium sensitivity.
Okay.
Can't have any bacon, nothing like that. But when he had Argentinian beef, he went insane. He also loved the Mexican pork. Actually, I should clarify, the Mexican wild boar, which is what he was getting. One of my neighbors was a hunter and would go to a more remote part of Mexico and bring back wild boar. And he just gave me all the scraps, which I took to the butcher shop and had ground. And then I would just pull from the freezer a kilo at a time to make the Milou mix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we make our own dog food as well, but we don't have access to those kinds of scraps. We used to in Portland. There was a butcher that we could go to get those kinds of different scraps, but not here in Spain right now. You're lucky.
When we were in Spain, I would go to the sushi places and ask for scraps because they would take any dark parts of the tuna or dark parts of the salmon belly and just put them in a scrap pile. And they would dispose of it at the end of the day. So they became very cooperative about saving that for me, keeping it refrigerated, and then I would chop it up, mix it with the sweet potato, etc. So I got the sushi places involved.
Excellent. I don't think that free is always good, and it reduces food waste, which is a big thing, since so there is so much food waste out there. So it's almost like, gosh, if other restaurant owners could just listen and be inspired to this and also connect with pet owners, you can imagine, first of all, they could probably sell it. I mean, at a reduced price, of course, but nothing like what the grocery stores are charging. So it's a source of income for the restaurant. It's better food quality for the dog owner and the dog. And you're keeping things local as well.
It has begun in Germany. There's a company called Too Good To Go. Are you familiar with it?
No.
It's an app that allows you to purchase food that's too good to go. So, for instance, the end of the day at a bakery, they've got 10 loaves of bread left. You purchase it for cents and you freeze 9 of the 10 and eat 1. I was on Too Good To Go, and a butcher store nearby had Hundfleisch, which was the trimmings of various things. And I bought a bag of Hundfleisch for €3. Well, not waste. I trimmed the fat off and then I rendered the fat for cooking. So it wasn't waste, but about 20 to 30% he was unable to eat.
No. It's still a tremendous value. I think I have heard of this app. Do they have it in UK as well?
Yes, they do.
Yeah. Someone mentioned it to me. Okay, I should probably check that out more. And it's called Too Good To Go. Okay. All right, I'll check that out. Wonderful. Well, Karl, I think we need to wrap up for the day, but it's been a pleasure chatting with you. I know.
Well, I'm still planning on coming to Spain this summer, so I will have a chance to see you. Yeah. So we're just a little food tour company that began with one experience in Paris. We're now in 5 cities, soon to be 6. And we're looking at a bigger pattern of growth for the next few years, adding 3 to 4 cities a year. So we're going to take on a little bit of money, a small investment in order to make that happen. Always chefs, never guides.
Wonderful. And people will be able to follow you and get more information. We'll put the links in the description of the podcast, so they'll get access to your site. So
absolutely. Bye-bye, and I will see you in Spain.
Thank you, Karl. Take care. Bye-bye.
That's it for this episode of the Taste of Place podcast. This episode is brought to you by the World Food Travel Association and its Taste of Place movement. We'd like to hear from you. We invite you to share your ideas, questions, and thoughts about the podcast by contacting us through our website, or you can connect with us and comment about the show on major social media platforms. Special thanks to our guest, Karl Wilder, and our sincerest thanks to you for joining us. We wish you a safe, happy, and productive month ahead.